Welcome to Ignite the Spark Within, a podcast designed to do just that, ignite your spark within you. I'm your host, Sarah Malone, owner of Spark Fitness and Lifestyle Coaching and voted Yahoo Finance's top 10 female coaches to follow in 2021. I believe everyone has a fire inside them, a powerful purpose, a story waiting to be told, and everyone can uncover and unleash this power. Every day you have the choice to either let your experiences shape you or take control and use your experiences to shape the world around you. You were made to experience happiness, freedom, joy, purpose, love, passion, and abundance. Disrupt the status quo, think for yourself, and join forces with those around you doing the same. Join me for thought-provoking conversations along with the strategies needed in order to help you ignite your spark within. Well, you guys, welcome back to the show. It has been a full month and I've been off of the show. I took a little forced hiatus. I took it from social media too, but I just want to start by thanking you all for your continued listening. I mean, even though I haven't been live on the show and posting new episodes, y'all have been listening and sending me text messages. So I appreciate you so much. You all know that I love you and thank you for rating and supporting my show. And I wanted to start this kind of re-entry back into Ignite the Spark Within with a little life update. I know y'all love those. So let's go into it. So part of the reason why I took a hiatus from the show and from social media was because number one, I was getting a little burnt out, to be honest with you. I was getting burnt out of the obligation of social media, of the marketing, the way that the whole industry is kind of shifting and changing. And it felt like more of a stressor than it was a desire. And I'm in this season of my life where I want to do things out of desire, not out of need, because it's my belief that if we're operating from a place of need, that also means we're operating from a place of lack. Because if I need to do something, that means I'm lacking something that I think that doing this thing is going to get me. And I was like, I need to practice this desire. And if I'm not getting lit up here in this space, then I don't belong here. And that came with also taking a break from the show, but for different reasons. So for the last month, just to update you guys, as you all know, if you've been following my journey, and if you haven't, you can go back on previous episodes or even just check out my social media and see snippets of my journey, especially over the last 9 months since I relocated and moved to Arizona. Part of that season transitioned me into living in an RV on one of my friend's property. And while the initial transition of that journey and going into that journey was very enlightening because it allowed me to experience a type of living that detached me or unattached me from physical things and physical acquisition, right? It allowed me to eliminate and to find true abundance in life. I feel like I accomplished that purpose. But as we were continuing on and as I was continuing living there in that space, it became abundantly clear to me that there was something spiritually off with the place, the space, and then also just my season of life. Now, I can't negate the fact that I was there for a season, for a reason. And some of these things I will mention in this show because we're talking about, are you on the right path, right? Are you on God's path for you? And how do you know? And how to eliminate the stress from that and have ease in it, which is so timely, right? Because it's like at any point in my journey over the past 9 months, I could have and did really question myself, like, did I make a wrong turn here? Did I do something wrong? Am I being punished? Like, these are all very human and egoic thoughts that would come up if you're ever experiencing distress or even lack, or what the Bible would refer to it as a desert season, which I feel like I was in. But really what that means is that you're in lack of something, right? You're hungry or you're thirsty. And in reality, I was never hungry or thirsty. I was always provided for spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Now, back to the life update. It became abundantly clear to me that in this RV space, it became it it changed from a spiritually enlightening place and season to a very spiritually traumatic place for me personally. Now, what happened is in Arizona, we've been experiencing record high heats, at least where I was living at the time. This has since passed, but at the time, it was really taking a toll on the RV and the system of the RV, and eventually broke the air conditioning and making this space unlivable for me. Now, to preface this, it was not as if I couldn't live somewhere else. It was just that I didn't feel like it was time yet. I didn't feel called to do so. Again, back to the path, right? I was being called to, I felt intuitively, to be patient and to sit in this season. And so I didn't make moves prior to figure out a more permanent living situation. And the reason for that came to be was because I would meet my, now I know him to be my soulmate, my twin flame, my other half of my soul, my person. Okay, whatever we want to phrase that, whatever terminology we want to use. I met my person. I met the love of my life. And had I had moved from that situation prematurely, I would have never met him. So huge blessing there, right? But as soon as I met him and it was like, time is up here, it became a very distressful situation. So long story short is the RV broke down, making it unlivable. At the same time, my car was also overheating because of the high heats, and something had broken down in the car, right? And then at the same time, there was some type of glitch with Google, and my business page got taken down. So I'm getting hit 1, 2, 3 punch. And aside from those three major things, there was, of course, other life and emotional and relational and client situations that were really challenging for me and really heavy. So and this all happened within a day or two, right? So I'm like in a very, very short and swift period of time, I was for lack of better terms, I was really knocked down. I was really knocked on my butt. I felt incapable and just totally kind of like helpless in a way, but not so much helpless as like I'm a victim, but like my hands are tied. What can I do? I can't drive my car. I don't have a place to live. And Google is, people can't find me on Google now, which is the whole purpose of coming out here, starting my business or restarting, I guess, my business. So this put me into a very interesting space internally. And I think it could have been framed, or just perspective would have it, right? That either I was being attacked spiritually, or it was God's way of knocking me down hard enough to get me to listen to some things. With that being said, I felt like some of the things he was trying to communicate with me previously were, number one, break your patterns. Okay. Don't cling so tight to rituals and habits and routines, because this is a sense of control, and you need to be able to learn to connect and stay connected. Right. Your channel needs to stay open, regardless of if your routine is staying right. Number two, reassess social media and your relationship with social media, and get out in the world, hands and feet, get with people, and I feel as though he forced me into a position to want to do that, because in that moment I had zero motivation or inspiration to post anything. I didn't even want to look at social media. I was questioning everything, like, your mind, it's so interesting when you go into a space of challenge or depravity. Your mind becomes a very interesting place, and you find out a lot about yourself. Now, I'm used to doing this, being up against adversity and seeing what I'm made of and seeing my mind go to work. And I know that I can overcome anything because I have in the past, right? I know when the fire is on, I turn up. Now, this was different. Okay. The fire got turned on so hot in such a short period of time that I wanted to give up. I wanted to give up for the first time in my life. It was kind of like this thoughts of what's the use? Like where has all of this gotten you? You know, it made some really interesting thoughts come up. And so in the process of this, I took a social media fast. I took a physical fast, a 3-day physical fast. Now, I've never fasted before, but I felt extremely called to do this. As a matter of fact, I felt called to do a fast way previously, and I did not listen. So that's my fault. And if the whole purpose was to get me to fast, well, you know, mission accomplished, but ouch, painful way of doing so. So I fasted, and it's interesting because um, I had a lot of people then messaging me and reaching out that they felt called to do a fast, right? Um, and I felt more of a collective thing that was happening, and not so much, a personal attack. I feel as though we collectively experienced some very rough waters there, mentally and emotionally, and everybody has their different story and their different reasons or ways why those waters were rough. It could have been a physical experience or circumstance, um, or simply a matter of the mind, right? Emotional attack, emotional confusion, a lot of polarity inside. And we can go into that in another episode about the collective update of what's happening energetically right now, and at different spaces. But I wanted to share this because in this process, it was so interesting. Now I feel reinvigorated, right, to come back with a different purpose and a different goal in mind. Like my simple goal has always been to impact people on a deep level, as you all know, with not only the show, but with the work that I do with clients in therapy, in hypnotherapy, in coaching and mentoring, in the retreats, in energy healing sessions. So that's always been my goal, right? And the second goal is to share my journey. There's something so profoundly powerful about sharing my journey. And there was a time when I said, to hell with it. I'm not sharing my journey anymore because um I had my own reasons for feeling and thinking that, but I realized that the sharing is just as much for me as it is for other people to watch and to be along and to be inspired. And that's really my purpose, like sharing and experiencing the human experience, which I haven't done a very good job of prior. I think a lot of people try to ascend and raise their consciousness out of the human experience. And I will be the first to say, I am here to experience fully the human experience, and to master that, right? I don't want to dominate over the human experience, but I do want to master the art of the human experience. And I would like to share that with you all. Now, for whatever reason, wisdom comes through, and this is the first time in a while that I have felt myself enough to stay grounded in the teaching that's coming through to me today, which is on following the right path for you. And how do we know, right? How do we know when we're following God's path for us? Or if you don't like the term God, how do we know when we're following the right path, our calling, our purpose, right? Our unique purpose. So as we get into this teaching today on am I on the right path, right? And how do I know? And then secondly, I want to talk about when you do know you're on the right path, how to settle into that path in a place of peace and ease and flow rather than stress and kind of over spiritualizing it or over exemplifying it, making it something bigger than it really is. which everybody's path and purpose is important, but I think it's very important also to keep ourselves in proportion to who we really are in our grand impact on this world, and not making it more important, not making ourselves more important than we really are, while also realizing that we are very important and special and unique. It's a very paradoxical and dichotomy of a situation, of a concept, to say, in the grand scheme, I'm not really that important, but in the grand scheme, I'm also very important, right? It's like well, explain that to me, Sarah. And the answer is this. It's like, if you are a drop in an ocean, well, in the grand scheme of a drop in the ocean, if you take that drop away, the ocean is still going to be the ocean, yes? But your impact as that drop in the ocean, it does have a ripple effect, and that affects the tide. All of our drops, all of our presences creates a ripple that affects the tide. So yes, it is important. And we can opt out, but just by the mere fate, the mere nature that we are here, we have already opted in on a subconscious and soul level. So before I get too deep into this, I do want to ask you, as always, please rate, please share this podcast. If this blesses you, or if any of the other episodes have brought you value in any way possible, please share this with 3 to 5 people right now. Go, you can pause it, you can come back to this, or you don't even have to pause it at all. But this is a free show. There's no ads. There's no sponsors. If you do feel like donating to the show just to make this thing go round, please consider donating. There is a link in the show notes. The other thing I want to mention is there are some amazing and profound, if any of this information blesses you, or it makes you curious about yourself and discovering more about yourself, I've got 3 courses online now: mind, body, and spirit. If you want to go all in and immerse yourself in mind, body, and spirit, there's the bundle. But if you go on the website, sparkflc.com, click on online courses, you will see many different courses there. There's a spiritual warrior, a mental titan, and then the physical mastery. Each of those courses is designed to help you discover more about yourself and how to experience a sense of mastery over yourself, but also to create what you actually desire, right? Because sometimes these courses, they tell you a one way to do things, and that's like the successful way to do things, but that's not necessarily the case. What's successful to some may not feel successful to you. So the goal of these courses is really to get you to identify and define what is meaningful, what is your calling, what is your purpose, what is fulfilling and success to you, and then, okay, let's build the blueprint around that. Go check those out. And then, of course, the next retreat, co-ed retreat in Sedona in the Red Rocks, is going to be February 2024. We're going to kick off 2024 right with a beautiful transformational retreat. Now, y'all know how much I love these retreats. And if you have been to one, you know how absolutely transformational that they are. And it's really just my goal to continue this deep, deep work. It is an immersive experience that is unlike anything you've ever experienced before. I promise you, it's so simple, it's so fun, and you will break through barriers that you've never been able to break through in the past. So please join us. We have 8 spots available for these retreats, men and women. If you have a hunger and a desire to grow, this is your place to go. It doesn't even matter what you believe in, or what emotional states are blocking you, or whatever. If you have a hunger and desire to grow, period, and you're ready, come join us at Reignite in the Red Rocks, February of 2024. Okay, so let's go into this. The topic of today's episode is on the basis of, am I following the right path? Am I on the right path? How do I know if I'm on the right path? And I frame it in the way of saying, am I on the path that God has laid out for me? Because that's very important. Now, there are 3 different types of people that I can be communicating to in the topic of this episode today. Number 1, people that have no idea whatsoever what they're being called to do. They don't have a clue, right? They're out there searching, like, what is my calling? What are my gifts? What's my assignment? What's my purpose? Okay, we all need and want purpose. The question is, usually, especially with clients that I work with, I notice that if people are in a state of like, what's the use, or depression, or like perpetual habitual depressive thoughts, there's a lack of feeling of purpose, right? Chances are, if you feel like you're purposeful and you feel like you're doing what you are supposed to do, you're not going to feel so much depressed or unmotivated or meaningless. That usually comes when there's a lack of purpose, right? So we all want purpose. And when I ask the question, why do you want purpose? Why? And I continue to ask that question, it always comes down to, so I can be happy, right? We all want to be happy. And if we feel like we have meaning, and if we are making an impact, or that our existence is purposeful, then we generally feel pretty happy. Joy is another story. We can talk about joy later. But happiness, an underlying feeling of happiness, is going to be there if you feel like you have purpose. Okay. The second type of people that I could be talking to today is people who already know what they're called to do, but somewhere along the line become obsessed with making sure that they're on the right path with what they're supposed to do. Meaning, okay, I've figured out that this is my calling, this is what I'm supposed to do. And now it's like, now that I know, it almost becomes more stressful knowing what I'm supposed to do, because now all I think about is how do I do what I'm supposed to do? And am I doing the right things? And what if this is a wrong decision? And what if I should be over here doing this? And should I be connecting with this group? And all of these questions of stress start to come into play, because now we know what we're supposed to do, or maybe where we're going. But you know how funny God is. He shows you sometimes an end result, but he doesn't show you the how or the way there, right? So he shows you like the outcome. Hey, you're going to get here, but he doesn't show you, he shows you step 5. He doesn't show you step 2, 3, and 4. Okay. That's how God works a lot of times. So when we drop into this place of distress, wondering about steps 2, 3, and 4, when we're on step 1 right here, this can cause us to question if we're on the right path. And the third type of person I may be talking to today is people who are already walking the path. They're already taking action towards what they know they are called to do. But there's this thought, oh my gosh, I know I'm talking to some people when I say this, when they say, I'm not doing enough, I'm not going fast enough, I should be further along than this, I should be this, I'm not doing this. Okay, oh my gosh, you know what I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. And if it's you, that would have resonated so hard. You're going to be slapping your knee right now. So they already know, they're already doing, but then there's this perpetual voice in the head that's saying, you're not doing enough, you should have been here by now, you should be over there by now, am I in the right place, am I doing the right thing, should I not be doing this, should I be doing this? Which is just another way of saying what I previously just said about the second group of people, about questioning, right? So really, okay, so the question, Sarah, okay, awesome. All this information is great. You've probably by now identified which group of people that you are. And I would like to join you in doing that, and saying a lot of times in the past few years, I have been the third type of person where I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm on path. I'm taking the actions. I'm sacrificing a lot in the form of time and human pleasures and relationships and all these things that I'm sacrificing a lot, but at the same time there's a voice in my head that says, I'm not doing enough, you should be doing more, you should have more fruit for your labor by now, right? Should. And somehow I've decided along the way what I should have according to the work that I've put in, rather than allowing God to dictate the time for that, right? I'm basically saying, you're messing up, God, because hi, hello, I'm working really hard. And because of that, I should have a lot of things. That's basically what we're saying if we say that, right? So how do we know if we're on the right path? Well, in a simple terms, I would like to frame it this way. You know that you're on the right path, whether you're experiencing distress or peace. Let me explain that. So God's plan for you is not going to be easy, but it is going to be simple in the way that you will not have to force what God has for you. If you are forcing something to happen or to come to fruition, or you're forcing the timeline of something, right? You can bet that it's not God's plan for you. If you have to force it, it's not what God has for you, or it's not in the time that God has for you. So, but on the flip side of that, what God has for you and the path forward and your plan is not easy. Okay. And I'll explain that in a minute. It's not easy, but it is simple. Have you ever had it when something random, a random idea, a seemingly random idea from yourself or from someone else comes in and you're like, that's a good idea. I should do that. And you do it and things just flow and it's natural. It feels good. It's very fruitful. You get a sense of ease with that moving forward, right? That is what I'm talking about. Okay. So there have been times in my career when I thought I wanted to open a gym and have a bunch of employees and coaches. And so I put it on my vision board. I put it on my goal board. And I'm like, yes, by this date, I'm going to have the gym. I'm going to have X amount of employees and coaches. And I made that my plan, right? But here's what happened. In the process of doing that, I experienced so much, to me, felt like resistance, but resistance not in a form of like challenge, resistance in the form of no. The answer is no. Like every coach that I was hiring was just, it wasn't working out. It was stressful for me. It was changing the way that I enjoyed my meaningful work. Things kept falling through. And so this was my cue to say, this is not the direction that God wants you to go. In which case, listener, you, whoever's listening, I would tell you this: goal setting is nice, but God's plan is better. Oh my gosh. Goal setting is nice, but God's plan is better. And so we must be able to be flexible and fluid and remain unattached. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We must remain unattached from our goal. See, because what happens is if we become too attached to the goal, to the outcome itself, then we will, for however long it needs to take us, right? Because our egos can get in the way. For however long it needs to take us to stop trying to force something that is not for us, we will be able to listen and step into what is for us, which will happen with a sense of ease. Not easy, okay? Not without its own sacrifices or challenges or quote unquote problems, but it will happen with ease. It will flow. It will not feel forced. Now, if you have to force it, again, it's not for you for the following reasons. One of three, and there may be other reasons as well that I'm not foreseeing today, but if God drops it in my heart, it will come through. So if you have to force it, it could be because of three reasons. Either it's the wrong timing, okay, because God's timing is perfect and we want things now. Usually when I get the cue of I'm supposed to do this, okay, then I want it now. Okay. And we can get a little overzealous and we try to force the timing. So the reason that we get information on something a direction that we're supposed to go is for just that, the direction. Okay. Oh my gosh. God gives us information in order for us to know our direction. He doesn't give us information to say, you should have this right now. Go get it. Take it right now. That's not how it works. He's saying, he's like that voice. It's like that voice off in the distance that you hear and you're like, oh, this direction, right? If you think of spirit, oh my gosh, this is so good. If you think of spirit as a whisper on the wind, a voice in the wind, what the wind does is it blows in a certain direction. You can't necessarily pinpoint the location that the wind will be at, or you can't even necessarily pinpoint the direction that the wind is going. You just know the general area, right? And if you picture yourself in the wilderness, which we all are in the wilderness, searching, seeking, exploring, adventuring, when you're in the wilderness and you're following the wind, all you know is that the wind is blowing this away, over here. I hear that whispering wind, and I know I'm going to go over there. I didn't get a message of go to this tree right here, then this tree, then that one, and you'll be at your location. I didn't get any of that. All I got was the direction. Okay, so our time, our need to make things happen in our time that makes us feel comfortable, right? Because we want to feel progress. Okay, we somehow, somewhere along the way, and I do this too, we somehow attach how fast things should be happening, like what's a comfortable timeline, right? And because I'm mentally putting all of this emotional energy and work towards it, and I think it should happen now. That's not how harvesting works. When God was like, I just put this on your heart so that you knew what direction to go. So just start walking there, and then I'll make things happen along the way. Okay. That's the beautiful part about this, and part of this has to do with surrender. Again, another podcast for another day about the art of surrendering. But the surrender would say in that moment to say, awesome. Any information that I do have right now is all the information that I need. I know that I'm supposed to go in that direction over there, and I'm going to start going in that direction. And then I know that everything that happens as I'm going in that direction is up to God and up to, many other factors other than just myself. Okay. And this would be going to the second group of people and the third group of people too, to say, yes, you're doing the things, you're taking part in that, but you're not the one making the things happen. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So it's like you're taking the steps, but something outside of you is making the things happen. And I know, oh my gosh, that is going to hit people the wrong way. I think some people it's going to hit the wrong way because they're going to no, I'm the creator of my life. But the truth is that you're not. You're a participant in your life. You are a participant in your life. You are not the creator of your life. No, no, no. Because if you were, how much pressure would that be on you? You didn't want that pressure? That makes no sense. And if you do, then go be God, because that's his burden to carry. Okay. We all have our cross to carry. That's more like emotional karma, right? And then our own individual purpose. That's what we're supposed to carry. But as long as we're following, along that following, we surrender. And we know that even if, okay, so this was a hard lesson for me to learn too. Even if I think that I've done everything possible as a therapist, as a mentor, as a coach, and I wasn't able to change someone. Okay, first of all, I don't do the changing. And neither do you if you're a coach or a mentor or a therapist or a whatever, a speaker. I have news for you. You do not do the changing. You do the coaching and the mentoring and the teaching and the speaking. And God does the changing. So again, surrender. You're taking the steps, you're walking the path, but God is making the things happen. Okay? Spirit is making the things happen. Woo! First episode back. Yep. Y'all better dig in for this one because it's going to be a long one. So that's that's the first thing. If you have to force it, it's not for you. It's probably the wrong timing. Could be the wrong timing, right? Could be number two, the wrong place. Okay. Maybe, oh my gosh, maybe you're trying to build the Taj Mahal in Cabrini Green, and that's not going to work out very well. In fact, I had this experience when I was in Illinois. I was trying to build something that I know was put on my heart by God. I know it was, without a shadow of a doubt. Okay. But I was attempting to build it in a place it was not supposed to be. And therefore it felt very forceful. It exhausted me. And here's the thing. Here is the thing. Oh my gosh. When it's God's plan for you, it will fill you with energy, not drain you. I'm going to say that again. When it is God's plan for you, it will fill you with energy, not drain you. If you get exhausted, it's not the gift, it's a burden. And you can make a gift a burden by your thoughts, your mind, if you want to, which many do. And that doesn't mean that the gift is flawed. That means your thinking is flawed. Okay. But my point is, if you have to force it, maybe the thing you're trying to do is the right thing. Maybe you're just doing it in the wrong place. And this takes me back to what I said, that it will be simple, not easy. Because if it is, in fact, God's calling for you, but you're trying to build it in the wrong place, well, guess what he's going to call you to do next? Move the place. Okay. And that can be hard. That can be hard for us to grapple with. That's what he called me to do. And I knew it. I knew it because it was so forceful and it was draining me ounces of energy. And I was just took every bit of me to protect that energy space and my flow and all of these things. And it was like, this can't be it. This can't be it. And so I know it's all right. I know what's coming next. If you called me to do this thing, but it's not in this place, that could only mean one thing. You're going to call me to do this thing in a different place. And the ego can come up and say, but you have such success here. Everybody knows you. You've been here for so long. You know it. It's comfortable. It's safe. It's this, it's that. Stay, right? But something just doesn't feel right inside with that. And so, with that being said, God will call you into fear. He will call you into stretching yourself. He will call you into unknown. And he may call you away from things that you are comfortable with. Okay. And what's comfortable for us doesn't necessarily mean it's good for us. I know that's a hard one to grapple with, but comfort isn't what God wants for us. Oh my gosh. God doesn't want you to be comfortable. He wants you to be fulfilled. God doesn't want to give you, what's an analogy for that? I'm thinking right now, if you've ever seen this picture of Jesus holding Jesus with his hands behind his back with this huge teddy bear and a little girl in front of him with a small teddy bear, and she doesn't want to let the small teddy bear go. And she just doesn't know that what God has behind his back is something bigger and greater, right? This is the same thing. It's like she wanted that teddy bear because she didn't want to let it go because she didn't know that there was greater for her out there. And this is the case for you. God doesn't want you to be comfortable. His goal is not for you to be comfortable. And you know how I know that? Because when he sent Jesus here, Jesus wasn't comfortable. He was extremely uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. And God has a purpose for you that supersedes, oh my gosh. God has a purpose for you that supersedes your comfort. And it prioritizes fulfillment and service. Let me say that one more time. God has purpose for you that supersedes your comfort and instead prioritizes fulfillment and service, because that is what the gifts are. They fulfill you and they serve others. Point blank, period. Now, that was number 2. If you have to force it, it's not for you. And the third one is, it could be that you're in the wrong heart space. It could be, and actually, might be the worst one of all. It could be that you're in the right place at the right time, but doing things with the wrong heart. And that feels forceful. If God calls you to write a book, and you're in the right place, you're in the right time to do this, but in your heart, you're all about, I'm going to write this book because I'm going to become famous and I'm going to make a lot of money. And it's everyone, my need for validation is going to be met, right? We want the influence, we want the fame, you want the money, you want the worldly trappings of what that accomplishment would be like and feel like. Then this will feel forceful. It will not feel like flow. And it may not be what God has for you at the time, in which case, I could even argue to say that if the heart is off, then so is the timing, because God wouldn't put you in the right timing with the wrong heart. Okay. Like he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. It's like, it's almost like, a prerequisite for the right timing is the right heart. And I can have the right heart in a wrong place, but it kind of goes against the nature of timing if my heart is off. If my heart is off, then it's obviously not the right timing. A different time is. Because I can tell you this for certain. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this show today, it would be this: you cannot screw up what God has for you. Okay? You can make it hard on yourself. You can give God a hard time. You can give others a hard time, and you can delay. You can delay it. You can make it hard on others. You can make it painful for yourself. But when you say yes, so unless you say no, right? The only way you can really screw up what God has for you is by saying straight up no. Just no. I'm not going to do it. In which case, he may continue to provoke and nudge you until you do say yes, which brings me to a topic of free will. It's like, do we really have free will, right? I believe the nature of free will has more to do with our experience of things rather than the things happening, right? Because it's like, the book is written, okay? The book is written. So even if we opt in or opt out, God already knows that plan. Right? So things are set in motion, things are going forward, and they're going to go forward the way that they're supposed to, period. You can't change that. Even if you say no to your assignment, the things are going forward. But free will does come into play with your own personal experience with things, meaning I get to choose. Okay. I don't get to choose my assignment. That's already been chosen for me. I don't get to choose whether what needs to be done gets fulfilled. Okay. That's going forward. The victory is already won. We know that. I don't get to choose like whether people respond or receive, or, who my, uh, I think who my partner is. God chose that for me. But I do get to choose how I go about that. Okay. This is the beautiful part. It's like I get to choose whether I want to, and this goes back to the garden. Okay. You think that God didn't know that Eve was going to eat the apple? Of course he knew. He's all knowing. But God gave her the choice. If she wanted to have an experience, oh my gosh, if she wanted to have an experience that went against his will for her life, for their life, meaning a life of bliss and perfection and love, right? And beauty and all these things. Or if she wanted to answer the human temptation or fleshly desires to know more, have more, be more, do more, even though she was everything already, everything she needed to be, right? So she got to choose what that experience was like. Okay, they're both going to live the life they were going to live before, they're going to live now. Now she just chose that she would die eventually. Meaning you experience suffering. You experience an awareness that there is suffering, and that your mind gets to determine that. Oh my gosh, this is, whew, where are we going? The point is, the free will comes not down to what would transpire and where she would go, right? The free will came down to how she would experience that, how I would experience it, how you would experience it. Are you going to walk your path with a sense of distress, anxiety, fear, worry, doubt? Or are you going to say yes, listen, and then allow whatever hills and valleys to come and be there for that experience? Okay. During my just stressful time, my challenge, my season, I really got to have a human experience because it crushed me. I felt, right? It's not like the circumstance crushed me. Okay. Oh my gosh. Because here's what it is, guys. It's not that the experience crushed me. It didn't. It was just an experience. It was just a circumstance. It was just, okay, if we're looking at this from neutrality, my home's broken, my car's broken, my business is down. Those are completely neutral. When I began to assign certain things to them, like I'm a failure, I have nowhere to go, God doesn't love me, like all of these things, that's my choice. That part of the experience was my choice. That was my choice. So this brings me back to, you cannot screw up what God has for you. You can only, oh my gosh, you could only block your appreciation and enjoyment of it. You can only block the ease of which you may experience it. Okay. So let's go into that. How to block or restrict this plan for you. Number one, plan. Try to make a plan. Try to make a plan. And I guarantee you it will go out the window. When you are truly following the Spirit, when you're truly following God and the orchestration of that, and you could also call this the intuition. When you're truly following that, you cannot plan. Those two do not go hand in hand. I experience this every time I host a retreat or do a live teaching or do a workshop or even just a one-on-one session with a client. If I try to plan, it's absolutely a waste of time and energy. It is, because intuitively speaking, the Spirit does not operate on plan. The Spirit operates in the moment. And when you're listening to that voice, the moment may be presented at a time, oh my gosh, and a place and a space of the heart that you never anticipated or could have planned for. Every time I try to plan, the plan goes out the window. When it comes to spiritual teaching, when it comes to this type of work, okay, how to block or restrict the plan for you. Number one, plan. Number two, make it about you. I can bet you that as soon as you begin to put yourself on the pedestal, like you're doing the doing, you're doing the speaking, you're doing the teaching, you're doing the changing, you're doing the transforming, you're doing the making and the breaking and all of these things, I guarantee you, you will be restricting that flow of easefulness, because that is a lot of pressure. Number one, it could be also very arrogant to make it all about us, right? We know those people, we can sense them. The ones that are arrogant and that are a posturing, spiritual, there's like a spiritual posturing that happens of superiority that that they are this grand speaker and teacher and coach and mentor, and like all these labels get attached, right? Because that makes it about the person and not the purpose. Oh my gosh, I'm going to say that again. When we make it about the person, not the purpose, we're missing the point. When we make it about the person, not the purpose, we are missing the point. And this brings me back to what I initially said in the beginning of this podcast, which was not to make ourselves more important than we really are. Because the first shall be last, the last shall be first. Okay, we're getting some deep meanings for some of these scriptures and verses that like maybe we're just kind of like mumbo jumbo before, but they're actually great sustenance. I learned this in my fast. They are actual substance. They feed us. They make us feel full on more than just a physical level, on a spiritual and emotional level. This is the important part, guys, is that we're getting filled. We're getting filled. Okay. So you make it about you. When it becomes about the person, not the purpose, you're missing the point and you're putting yourself higher than you ought to. Number three, how to block or restrict the plan for you. You're seeking the wrong things. For example, I'm putting money above my purpose, fame above my purpose, influence, validation, how I feel, proving something, but whatever you're positioning above, above God, really. If any of those things start to move up and they make it above God, or you selflessly following that purpose and passion, that is how you block or restrict the flow of easefulness, I would say, in this plan. Number four, doubt or fear. Whoo, this is a hard one. This is a hard one. And I'll tell you why. Because one of the natures of how we know whether it's God calling us or something else is that he will call you way outside of your comfort zone. He will call you into an arena that you don't think you're capable of, because you're not by yourself. Okay. So if it has that amount of fear, or we should say doubt, this is paradoxical too, because if you experience that, you can almost guarantee it's from God, because he's going to call you outside of your own perceived capabilities. He will call you outside of your own perceived capabilities. And this may bring up doubt or fear. Like, what? How am I supposed to do that? You want me to do what? I haven't even done that yet. Okay. We're going to doubt. We're going to doubt ourselves. But what we're really doubting is, oh my gosh. See, what we're really doubting is not so much ourselves, but the voice of God. Like, was that true? Like, what? Are you talking to the right person? We're basically saying you made a mistake, God. You made a mistake. And we're also doubting his strength because we know that it is not by our works that things that like this happen, but his. And so it's a very human response to have a doubt or a fear when God's calling you to something big, bold, and audacious. Welcome to the big leagues, baby. But the more you say yes, the easier it gets. That doesn't mean you're not going to have any doubt. And it doesn't also mean that you won't have challenges along the way and have to sacrifice. But that does mean that you can recognize the doubt and you can give it back to him. You could give it back to God. You can say, I'm choosing not to cling on to this thought. I am choosing not to take this thought because that seed of doubt can become a really big monster. So, all right, I see you, doubt, but I'm not going to water that seed. In fact, I'm going to pluck that seed out because I know that where I'm going is much bigger than myself. And I don't see the whole big picture, right? You don't see the whole big picture. When you're being called down a path, you only see one of two things, or maybe two things at once. The next step, or this like the step that you're on, and like the final vision, the final outcome. You don't get all the other stuff. Okay. You do not understand how oh my gosh. You do not understand how other people are going to be weaved into your life in order to make what you're supposed to do happen. And sometimes he may even use people that aren't aligned with your ultimate calling in order to help you get to this step and the next step and the next step. Doesn't mean they'll be there for the whole journey, but he will use others. And this is where we have to keep in mind timing as well, because sometimes we feel like we're in a standstill or in a holding pattern, not because God's waiting on you or that you need to do something to make it happen, but because he's waiting on someone else who's going to assist you or help you or come in as a resource for you in order to get to your next step. So wait, be patient, be still, and know that all of these things are working for your good. But when we sit in that holding pattern and doubt and fear has a chance to tango with your mind, will you tango back? Will you get in that dance? Or will you say no and take another hand? It's natural to have a thought of doubt. But what's very unnatural, or I should say supernatural, is that you acknowledge the doubt and you take another route. And of course, I'm speaking of that other route is give it to God, because this is not by your strength and your strength alone. This goes back to number 2 of making it about you. If you made it about you, oh my gosh, because here's the thing. If it were about you, and if you made it all about you, and if it were up to you, then that doubt or that fear would really grow, because all you know are your own current capabilities. That's all you have to base it on. And so if I'm being called to do a 10x project and I only know myself to be able to do 5x, that feels impossible. That 10x feels impossible. Okay. So that's how you can block or restrict, or at the very least, limit your enjoyment of your path. Okay. Now here's the part I want to go into. It's very, very important. This is very, very important, because when I said in the beginning that it would be simple, not easy, it's important to note that that simplicity does not come without challenge or redirections or even problems, okay, or our perception of pain. Okay, so just because we're on the path for us doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Like I said, it'll be simple, but that simplicity doesn't mean absent of pain or trials. Okay, that simplicity does not mean absence of trials or pain. So, how do we know then if it's a challenge or God saying, no, that's not the right path for you, right? How do we know that the thing that we're experiencing is in fact a trial and a tribulation in order to call us up to more, or if it's God saying, no, door closed? How do we know? So a good rule of thumb is if the obstacle or trial comes in the form of vicious or evil people, or potentially your own vicious, evil thoughts inside your own mind, it's from the enemy as an attack or a trial and tribulation, right? Because when you pursue God's calling for you, you can absolutely guarantee that you will be attacked in some way, shape, or form. That's not to say like I'm constantly in a war zone in battle. No, that's to say you will experience resistance. Put another way, you will experience resistance when you pursue the path of righteousness and goodness. That's just it. You will experience that. But the point is that if it's coming in the form of thoughts, again, doubt, fear, any wounded pattern of thinking about yourself or about others, it's an energetic and enemy attack and resistance, not necessarily a block from God, unless he's just straight up taking gas out of something in you. Okay, I refer to this as like the like for me, he took the inspiration out of certain things that I was doing because he wanted me to direct my energy somewhere else. Okay. This is different than saying, whenever I sit down to write my book, I procrastinate. Okay, that's resistance. That's resistance because God wouldn't cause you to procrastinate. Okay. So could be wrong time, wrong place, wrong heart, right? But it's our job to overcome that resistance because it's usually just a mechanism of the mind. It's our job to overcome that. That's part of the calling us up to higher, right? Like, I know that he's called me to do retreats. And yet always there's some kind of challenge to overcome in the road to those retreats. But usually those challenges come in the form of challenging one of my weaknesses, i.e., dealing with people, finances, having to have everything figured out and need for control and all these things. So usually those forms of resistance are coming at an angle that is directly impacting one of my already things that I need to work on. Do you see the difference here, guys? Is that these internal resistances are going to come from a place of already, I will call them vulnerabilities, but I would like to just frame them this way as weaknesses, right? Weaknesses or things that we need to work on anyway. So that's just natural. That is natural causation of when you're being called into something challenging or higher of you. Yeah, it's going to challenge your weak points, and it's going to make you realize, okay, I got to work on that inside of myself, right? Here's what I could do differently next time. Now, if it's an external block, meaning, and I'll give an example of this. If it's an external block, meaning something is just literally being shut down, like you weren't able to get the space, you weren't able to get the place, you weren't able to get it booked or whatever, it's probably a block from God. Okay, do you see the difference? So one is the form of kind of like energetic and impurity in people and in yourself. The other one is just a straight up external block. I'll give you an example of this. I was supposed to do a retreat a long time ago, my first ever retreat with this woman. And I think we both felt the feeling that it wasn't a good collaboration. So I was going to go through it, but what happened was a betrayal in that process, and the whole, like, she opted out, took the space, all these things, and things kept getting shut down for me in trying to look for another space in Illinois to host my retreat. So I kept getting roadblock, block, block, block. Nope, not this space, not this space, not this. Something was always coming up to keep me from getting these certain spaces in Illinois to host my retreat. So I said, okay, maybe it's just not supposed to happen. Wrong. It just wasn't the right circumstance, timing, and place. And all of a sudden, someone approached me about a space out here in Arizona to host the retreat. They had the space, I had the retreat, and it lined up perfectly. And it's eventually what caused me to move out here in the first place, leading to a whole chain reaction of other things. My point is that all of those other things were external blocks from God, directly from Him, to say, no, that's not what I have for you. No, that's not what you're doing. The right things. I was doing the right thing with the retreat. I was just doing it at the wrong time, in the wrong place. Okay, so He blocked it, physically blocked it. So if it's an external circumstance preventing you from doing something, don't automatically assume that you're just not supposed to do that thing. Okay, potentially He's telling you, wait, wait, wait. It's not right yet. It's not right yet. Now, here we go. Okay, those are blocks from God. So it's important in those times to really get still in the waiting, get still in the chaos if it is chaotic, and allow this to strengthen your trust, your faith, and your own patience and ability to work with whatever is happening, you see. And so really, in any case, whether this this is the form of resistance, like we talked about, in the mind or in the heart, or from other people, remember this. Remember that we don't have to try to get away from evil people or from thoughts, because God has the ability and the desire to work all things for your good. So sometimes on your path, like for instance, like I told you, it's like I deep down, I knew that this was my path, this was my direction. So the fact that I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I on the right path? Did I make a wrong move? Having all of these doubts, right? Because the reason I had those doubts, and maybe you find yourself here too, was because I was surrounded by evil people. Well, not surrounded, but I had some evil people that I was working with. And I asked myself, okay, is this like a sign that I'm in the wrong direction? But remember, God will use even enemies or evil people or whatever you want to call them. He will even use people that you don't like or get along with or agree with for you. And remember, He will also use you for other people that you don't like or agree with. Okay, so remember that, because it's not about you. It's about the purpose. It's not about the person. It's about the purpose. So God will use anyone and anything for good if you're listening. If I sat in the pity party, if you sit in the pity party and get distressed, over, oh my gosh, I must have made a mistake. He must be punishing me. This must be punishment. Then we're missing it. We're missing it, and we're resisting against the flow of our path. This is making sense. Are we on? Are we on the same page? So in any case, whether it's resistance from opposing forces, let's just call it that, right? Because I don't want to scare you with the word evil. If it is resistance from opposing forces, or it's an external block from God, both of these things, however, are invitations to go inside and transmute and transcend. Oh my gosh. So both of these things are invitations to go inside and transmute and transcend whatever it is that it's calling up in you. Okay. Bring it back to you. We must do a U-turn instead of looking at all of these external forces and factors. And we must go back inside. This is the invitation in the calling. And this is the point, right? Oh my gosh. If we're only focused on the path, the outcome, getting there. Am I doing it right? Am I doing the right things? Am I doing enough? Am I going fast enough? All of these things. We miss the opportunity to go inside and become more of that version of ourselves that we're being called to. And that's really the purpose here. The purpose, part 2 of the purpose, is personal transformation. Oh my gosh, this is so good. The purpose of all of this is personal transformation. Yes, the end result is great. It's awesome, and it adds to the goodness and service of humanity. But a really big part of this purpose is personal transformation. So when we use both the resistance from opposing forces and the blocks from God as an invitation to see what it's bringing up in us, this is where we do the real work of personal transformation and transcendence. No, not transcending the human experience, but transcending whatever is keeping us in chains. Oh my gosh, this is so good, you guys. This is so good. See, the thing is, the real question here isn't, am I on the right path? The real question is, are you experiencing this the way that you truly desire to? Because when you're in a state of flow and ease and joy, you know what the answers are. The answers come easy. You know if something's a hard no, or you know, this is an opportunity. I'm going for that. It's like all of a sudden you have a new lens of glasses on. You have a new pair of glasses, and you see the doors, you see all these doors, and you see which ones have your name on it. You can see all of that. At the end of the day, the path for you will not be confusing. It may cause you to grapple with yourself. Okay, but that's different than it being confusing. It shouldn't conflict with what's morally right. Like, God's not going to call you to be a porn star. I mean, that's the best example I can think of. God's not going to call you to, like, harm a bunch of people. It shouldn't conflict with what feels right in your heart. Like I said, when you can drop into the space of the heart, what God calls you to will not conflict with that. You will feel the conflict when you begin operating more in ego rather than the heart, meaning, I know that I'm supposed to do this thing. Okay, I'm supposed to go in this direction. I'm going to point over there. Okay, I'm supposed to go in this direction. Now, along that path, of course, other people are going to experience that with me. But ego would take me out of that place of kind of like peace and just I'm going in this direction and to look at everybody else as opposition and like, no, don't get in my way. Don't get in my way because I'm supposed to be on this path, right? That's me dropping into ego. It's me coming out of the space of the heart and it's going into ego 100%. And that makes it not good, makes it stressful. And that's really what conflicts us, not the path itself, but how you're doing the path. That's really where the conflict comes in. That's huge, you guys. So I wish you would just really take that in because I feel like I'm taking it in right now too. So it's not that you're conflicted about your path. You're conflicted about how you're doing the path. At the end of the day, your path is going to come with sacrifice, whether it's pleasures, comfort, time, energy. It will cause you to reach down deep and be real, be truthful with yourself. It will scare the shit out of you. It will scare you not because of the thing, but it will scare you because of what you know is required of you in order to do the thing. It will scare you because you won't feel like you have the capabilities right now to do it. And you don't. That's the beautiful part, is you equip yourself with those capabilities along the way. And that's why it's scary, because somewhere deep down inside all of us, we all know that to be equipped means to be challenged. Isn't that true? And if we're going to have to rise up or grow, we know that that is also accompanied by challenge and trial, if we want to call it that, or we can call it opportunity. Okay. Again, free will, we choose. It will scare you, but this fear will come from a place of ego. And this calling should challenge your own capacity. I'll say that again. So if God's going to call you to something, he's going to challenge your own capacity, because the answer for why, if you're asking yourself why, I just felt like someone was thinking why would he call us to do that, right? Is because if he can call us outside of our own capacity, then guess what? We have no other choice but to rely and lean on him. Isn't that beautiful? He wants to be a part of it with you. If he would just say, go do this and you can do it all by yourself, that's no fun. That's no fun. So if it stretches your human limits, it's God. If you can do it all by yourself and it entices you because you're really good at it and it feels really good, chances are it's not from God. Or you've just gotten in your own way egoically with the doubt of like, well, that's too much, but I can really do this and I can feel good about it, right? And this is comfortable for me. So I'm going to do this because I know I'm going to succeed at this. That's a you. That's a you goal. That is not a God goal. And you maybe even headed in the right direction, but it's like, is that it for you? Okay. Oh my gosh, that's so good. You may actually have great ideas and great goals, and you're doing part of your purpose, parts of your purpose, right? But it's like, is that it for you? Is that all you were called to do? Do what's comfortable and easy and you're really, you'll succeed at? Okay. So at the end of the day, he will not call you also by using temptation. And temptation can come in many different forms. Physical temptation, mental temptation, meaning it takes your mind off of things. Emotional temptation, meaning what I just said was, I'll do this because I know I'll feel good when I do that. It's not about feeling good. You get the good feelings by by doing what you're supposed to do, for sure. But it's not about feeling good. It's about the purpose. So I feel like this topic could be like a part 2. And if this evoked or nudged you in a way that brought up new questions or new clarifications. I have a lot of people that message me or email me saying that they were taking a ton of notes. So if you do take notes from my episodes, or if you do take notes from this episode specifically, and it brings up like further questions or segues, please text me or email me. I'm pretty sure my phone number is public information, so you can find that. Or you can just email me or message the company page or my social media. But I'm telling you, if you're a note taker and this provoked some, expanded topics and expansion of things you want to know, then please message me. Those will be future episodes. As always, you guys know how much I love being with you in this space. It feels like an hour and a half goes by so quickly for me, especially when the spirit is really coming through. But it's such an honor, it's such a blessing to be back on the show after a month hiatus. Maybe I needed the sabbatical, but I'm glad to be back. If you have ideas for future episodes, please message me. Again, please rate and please share this episode with at least 5 people that you know would bring value to. And as always, I love you all. Be well, and I will talk to you so very soon. Love you guys. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Ignite the Spark Within. If this podcast brought you value, or you think it would bring someone else value, please hit that share button. My mission is to reach and help as many people as I possibly can. And you just never know who could use that one good piece of information. And hey, if you have any topics, discussion questions, or ideas for future episodes, you can reach me directly at sarah@sparkflc.com and just write podcast in the subject line. And if you haven't already, please rate the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. This helps bring awareness to the show. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're alerted for all future episodes. Please go ahead and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in pursuing coaching for yourself, you can visit sparkflc.com for more information.